105.5 WDHA, Jim Monaghan with you here this morning on the Jersey Magazine. And my guest this morning has actually been on the show for close to a year now. Other than me, I think he's been on the most. Jeremy Sheetinger. He is the head coach at Georgia Gwinnett College, where he led the Grizz Gang to the NAIA 2021 National Championship. Coach Sheets, good morning. And how was your ride in?
It was really good. Appreciate you having me on, Jim. Yeah, the ride in this morning after a great 4th of July holiday, spending some time with the family, relaxing. I needed to get in the office, right? I had some stuff waiting on me when I got here.
So for listeners who aren't entirely aware of who Coach Sheets is, now, how long have you been doing those videos?
I started them in the fall of, this October will be 2 years.
Okay.
Again, the birth of that honestly came out of boredom. I don't have a long drive. I don't have a long commute to work. I'm only live 5 miles from the field. But with the podcast and everything going on, I just wanted to do something that was a little more face to face. I think some people kind of have the fear of turning the camera around and putting themselves out there. I have zero issues with that. But I wanted to do something just unique and different and offer some thoughts and things that I was working through that maybe somebody else might be as well. So Jim, I always tell the story is awesome. I sit down with my coaching staff and I go, hey, I'm going to do this video series. What do you guys think? And my assistant goes, what are you going to call it? And I go, I'm not sure yet, man. I don't really have any names. He goes, how about that ride in? And I went, that's genius. I got it done. Consider it done. So he always says he needs a royalty check. I haven't sent him a check yet, but it's worked for us for sure.
Now, on the surface, those videos seem to be geared towards the baseball community. I mean, after all, that's your job. You're a college baseball coach. But so much of those messages I've found, at least for me, can be applied to just about anything, a regular job, if you will, outside of sports, even, your family relationships, even for kids in a classroom. So much of it is relatable, no matter what it is that you do.
So I had a really wise coach tell me this before, Jim. He said, the thing you got to remember, no matter who you're talking to, and at the time I was a young coach, he's like, you're going to be talking with guys that maybe have 2 more years experience. Some are going to have 10, some are going to have 20. You may talk with a guy that's been coaching for 50 years. The thing you have to remember is we're all on the same journey. Some of us just have a head start. And so I think there's a lot to be said for that. And I try the crux of the messaging, to your point, it's baseball, but it's softball, it's basketball, it's football, it's soccer, it's baseball, but it's business, it's leadership, it's organizational growth, it's coaching, but it's players as well. And I think the side of it comes back to the message is just about personal growth. It's about the same stuff that we're all dealing with, just maybe the dynamics are a little bit different. I'm offering thoughts of where I'm at 41. And there might be a 23-year-old, there might be a 73-year-old listening. And we're all kind of dealing with the same stuff. It's just different context or different dynamics. And I think growth across the human front is where I try to come from, and not just always be a baseball thing or a dugout thing or a coaching thing. It's a life thing. And hopefully it hits home.
Now, you can tell by the number of comments that you get, the number of retweets that you get, that you are inspiring people, that you're hitting home. Who inspired you?
I think it makes me flattered. I think, the first guy I talked about is my Little League coach. You talk about a guy that changed the trajectory of my life. He made me think differently about this position in coaching. I go through all the friends that I have in the coaching community. They, luckily, I'm very fortunate to have a coaching group that we literally text and call each other all the time. And the way that these men go about their business, it inspires me. I have to be better. If I'm part of this group, then I have to be better. I have to think differently. I have to grow. I have to learn. My kids inspire me and motivate me. My players, and then my real kids, my son and my daughter. We're hanging out yesterday, Jim, at the house. My assistant coach is over with his girlfriend, and we're all hanging out. And we're talking about how we're growing the program and the next moves we need to make. And I'm watching my son and my daughter run around, and I look at my wife and I go, you got to remember, we're trying to build a better life for them. So when I'm on the phone all the time, when I'm taking recruiting calls, when I'm trying to build a better life for them. If we get better players, we win more games, things turn over for us, it's because of them. Those folks motivate me on a daily basis. There's no doubt.
Did this start on Twitter, the video series?
It did, yeah. And then I've tried to share it across all the different platforms. You know how social media works. Like Twitter's it's its own little like target market. Facebook's it's another target market. Instagram, I hit more college players and high school players on Instagram. And I've just tried to share it across all those fronts. Yeah.
The reason I asked you that is Twitter can be, and I'm sure you know this, it can be an absolute total cesspool at times. And
Sure.
Given that your messages stand out, I mean, they just kind of, well, first of all, your personality kind of jumps off the screen. You got about 2 minutes. I think it's 2 minutes and 20 seconds.
20 seconds, yeah.
Each one of these videos. So your energy just fires off the screen. But even without that, just the message alone is such a breath of fresh air from what's usually on Twitter these days. I have to be honest with you.
That is part of why I wanted to do it. I'll be very honest. I don't engage with any negativity. That's why it's, if you look at every message, positive vibes only. I don't engage with negative people. I don't engage with negative comments. Jim, if I had $1 for every person I've blocked, just because, and the reason I do it is not because I'm sensitive. It's because life's too damn short. I don't need time to spend with people that want to bring others down or want to throw jabs at people. I don't have time for that. And I think it's, to your point. Yeah. If once a week, these messages can go out and I can make fun of myself. I think that's a thing people struggle with. I will cut down myself in a heartbeat. Like self-deprecating humor to me is the best. But I think it's more about being vulnerable. It's about being authentic. It's not always trying to get in front of people and act like you're this pillar of strength and you don't have issues. You don't cry. You don't deal with things. It's being as authentic and as vulnerable as you can be. And that, to me, that showcases real strength. I'm struggling with this. And I know you are too. And so here's how I'm working through it. Here's how I'm dealing with it. And I'm willing to share it in a public platform and let everyone see it. I know that, to be honest, it's turned corners for us because we're getting recruits now. Coach, I've never seen a coach do that before. Yeah, man, we're willing to put ourselves out there differently and uniquely, and it hits the right people, right? If you make a video and it hits one person, it was worth it. And I always think about that one person I'm trying to reach. And if I reach that one, then I've got it. Now, my DMs and text messages speak differently. It hits more than one. But that's the whole mission, man. You're trying to change one person's life with one message, and it's going to land at the feet of a lot of other people.
What was the biggest adjustment you had to make as a coach?
Biggest adjustment, I think, back to the willingness to be vulnerable. My wife, we were actually telling stories about when we first met, and she met me before I got out of coaching and went to the ABCA, and then now coming back. And she goes, I got to be honest with you, you were kind of a prick. Like you were not a nice guy. You were not the same guy you were now. And I think a lot of it, my kids changed me. My kids that talk about the adjustment of being a father and truly seeing your players as someone else's children, that changed. I also think the side of being vulnerable in front of them. Not a lot of coaches are willing to do that. Once again, you try to project that strength. I show my guys that a real man can talk about his emotions. A real man can let you know that he's struggling. A real man can be open and honest. And I try to get that across with my guys. I think that's been my biggest adjustment for sure.
You mentioned your kids, and that was actually going to be the next question I had for you. How did having children, and they're still relatively small, how did that change you? I've had three, older than yours, but it is definitely life-changing. There's no question about it once you realize that you're responsible for another human being.
Absolutely. It changes everything. Like I just mentioned, I think viewing your players differently is one. I'm very conscious, and my wife knows this about me. I'm hardly ever off the clock, right? I'm always working. I'm always scrolling through social to try to find a guy or DMs or texts or calls. But when I am with my kids, I try to be as present as I can. A good friend of mine says, we always teach our players, to block the base and take care of the baseball. He goes, how many of us are taking care of home? Not home plate, but home. He goes, we need to really be conscious when we get there that we take care of home plate. So I think that the having the children for me, it really changed everything in terms of how I go about my business, how I relate to my players, but also how I'm now integrating my family with my program, Jim. I think that's been the fun part. I'll give you a quick story. My daughter, we found out a little over 7-8 months ago, we found out she was autistic and, high functioning, but autistic. And I struggled with that. And I think I wore it on my face just about every day because it's a lot to manage. It's a lot to work through. My players found out. My players kind of went behind my back. They went and got autism awareness stickers for their helmets. And they got autism awareness bracelets, which they brought into the program. And it changed my life. Like my players are part of this family. My players want what's best for me, which is crazy because I want what's best for them. It's really opened my mind to getting those guys integrated, my kids integrated with the program.
You were an NCAA coach for a while. You're now in the NAIA. What are the biggest differences for you as a coach, especially when it comes to recruiting?
Well, NAIA, there's not as many rules. We're not restricted by calendars. We're not contact dates. A bunch of my buddies had the 4th of July weekend off as a dead period. We don't. We're going. I was texting kids late last night watching fireworks go off. It's a different animal. But I also think our opportunity is much different. And not to go too deep on this, but NCAA, is sort of, especially on the Division I level, it's really guided by finances. If your program has more money, let's just cut to the chase, it has more money, then you can win more games. You can build a better facility. You can go get better players. You can do things. And those that don't, you're sort of fighting to just get above water. You're fighting to be acknowledged and recognized. And I just don't have any interest in that, Jim. I'm pretty, as most would say, competitive. But I want to have a chance to win the whole thing. That's what I think on the NAIA level, we've got such a unique opportunity here at Georgia Gwinnett that we have a chance year in and year out to win the national championship. And that's the situation and program I want to be involved with, that my work ethic will dictate whether or not we have a chance to win that game. It's not down to finances. Now we've got a great situation, great budget, great field, all that stuff. And it might separate us a little bit, but it's also going to come down to work ethic. And I want when I rest at night, I want all that to be put to bed, me knowing that I had a fighter's chance, not because we didn't have enough donors or NLI money or those things. And I think that separates us quite a bit.
And one of the other things is, and I don't remember the exact number, you had posted it a while ago, is a number of kids who come out of your program who get signed by professional teams.
Yeah. So we had this is just finished up our 10th year, including COVID. We've had 37 players signed professionally, but we've had 16 signed in the last 2 years. So, I mean, granted, we walked into a great situation here and, we're getting 2 or 3 guys signed per year. That was the priority that I wanted, is that we need to help guys fulfill and chase their dreams. Every kid comes here with the dream of playing professional baseball. And so we had 6 sign off our national championship team. And this year, a team that went back to the World Series, we had 10, and which is unheard of. We had 10 signed professionally. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to be that platform that will allow players to chase team goals, but never lose sight of the individual goal. These guys want to keep playing, and that's the go-between we want to be in our program.
Yeah, I know a lot of kids. I'm a high school coach here in New Jersey. I've spent the spring as the pitching coach at Jonathan Dayton High School in Springfield. And I know for some kids, it's Division I or bust, not just on my team, but, around the area. And other kids see a somewhat bigger picture. And, I always tell kids, and I have been for years, if you're good enough, somebody's going to find you. Don't worry about it.
That's right. There's a lot to be said for that.
And without getting into the weeds here, I have a lot of issues with the NCAA and how certain things operate. So we'll just kind of leave that one alone. But I do want to talk to you a little bit about youth sports. Many WDHA listeners have kids who are either in youth sports or have just come out of it and are on their way into high school athletics. Your son, how old is he now?
He is 6 years old.
So he's gone through T-ball, I assume, right?
my son, bless his heart, he's not taking to baseball as quickly as I would have liked. So I'm
Really?
waiting for it. Yeah. We've tried to do basketball. And he's just not into it yet. It'll hit at some point.
I saw a picture of him in full uni. He looks great in it.
He lasted 30 minutes at that camp. We're hosting camp out here. I got the coach's kid. He's donned head to toe. And he goes, Dad, I really want coach. He called me Dad. Dad, I really want some Cheetos. So we go in and get Cheetos, and I think I'm just baiting him to get to camp. And he's like, nah, I think I'm ready to go home. I said, Coop, you just got here, man. He goes, nah, I want to eat Cheetos at home. Lasted 30 minutes. So we'll get there eventually.
If it's any consolation, when my oldest daughter was a little bit older than Coop, we have a field that's fairly close to us. And she'd say, Dad, go hit me some ground balls. So we'd go down and I'd hit her ground balls. And there was this one day in particular that she just lost interest like that. And I'm looking going, all right, this may not work.
Yeah.
And she lost some interest in softball, but ended up playing all 4 years in high school. So maybe Coop will follow that path.
I hope so.
It'll be rekindled.
Yeah.
Because there are instances, I don't know about where you are in Georgia, but there's definitely instances here in New Jersey, in this area, where you could say youth sports is broken. You may have seen it made national news, an umpire who was assaulted at a 13U game in New Jersey a couple of weeks ago. And it's just like, this is what it's come to. And it's scary on a number of different levels, both as a coach, as a parent, as someone who, as I mentioned, I coach at the high school level. I'm also involved in a travel organization, and watching this in a game that I love and make part of my living from it. Watching this happen is heartbreaking.
Yeah. This didn't make national news because I don't think people, I can't say, they probably did get it on video because everything's filmed. We were playing a game. I coached with a 16U national team, and we were playing in a tournament, and I just happened to glance over my shoulder and see the game behind us because the other two top teams were playing behind us. And I look over, and one of the pitching coaches is in an argument with the umpire. And this umpire's older. He's an older guy. And this probably, 30 to 40-year-old guy is in his face, Jim, and he's pointing at him and he's raising his voice and he's saying some choice words, right? He's doing his thing. And then all of a sudden, and I'm telling you, it was within 5 seconds of me turning and watching this happen, this coach pushes the umpire, and this poor man, his feet get caught up and he falls. And I mean, the whole crowd just gasped because we're like, we just watched a coach assault an umpire on the field. And I just, I don't have that social media, like, viral. I mean, I hope somebody posts that because I'm like saddened by that. Like, are you kidding me? That's where we're at. We're at the point where people, it's normalized now that people are putting their hands on umpires. You had one in New Jersey. There was another one earlier in the summer of a guy that really went after the umpire. And you're like, is this what we're doing? And I'm not going to say it's broken, but I do think you're getting the wrong people involved in the sport. We're at a critical point where there's an umpire shortage across all fronts in every state and every community. And you know what? I understand why. Like, I don't want to go umpire and get assaulted. Every call is, we run things a certain way in our program. We don't make comments to the umpire. My kids know, I don't care how bad he is. Let me go handle it in a different way. But by the way, he's not a professional umpire. So why are we holding him to the standard that he should be umpiring MLB? Your guys are coaching or umpiring youth baseball games. They sell insurance. They work at a hospital. They do. And this is a hobby for them. Mm-hmm. So it'd be like you going out as a fisherman, and every time you don't catch a fish, there's a guy over your shoulder barking at you how bad you are at fishing. I know. This is my hobby. It's the same way for these umpires. Now they're getting paid. I hear you, but we hold them to such a standard that is so it's not realistic. We're holding them to, and again, a lot of it's the pressures that the parents or the coaches are putting on themselves, that the kid has to be perfect. The coach, the team has to be perfect for all of us to chase our goals. It's just not the game. It's not the game that you love, that I love. It's definitely changing on that front. I hope we somehow get back to what it was.
A couple of months ago, I had the chance to interview Phil Cuzzy, a Major League Baseball umpire who's from here in New Jersey.
Yeah.
And when I had him on the program, I introduced him by saying he's the guy who has to be perfect at the start of the game and get better as the game goes on.
Yes. Somehow, some way, we've birthed it into that. And it doesn't make sense.
Well, for parents, for coaches, for players as well, I highly urge them to follow you on social media. You're easy to find, especially on Twitter and Instagram, at Coach Sheets. Jeremy Sheetinger, head coach at Georgia Gwinnett College. You've been a big part, as I said, of Jersey Magazine almost from the beginning with How About That Ride In? And I've been waiting for a while to get you on and have a full-length interview with you. And I can't thank you enough for your time today here on DHA.
Jim, it's absolutely my pleasure. Please reach out to me. I'm willing to help in any way. And I just appreciate the opportunity to connect with you guys. Thank you.
I think I stopped it.